Welcome back to the Tim Teaches podcast. I'm your host, Tim McCoy. Today I'm joined by Dr. Robert Glover, renowned therapist, speaker, author of the best-selling book, No Mr. Nice Guy. Dr. Glover, you have over 30 years experience as a therapist, coach, and educator. And man, you've been changing guys' lives for quite a while now. I appreciate you joining me, and thank you so much.
Tim, good. Thanks for the invitation. Good to see you again. We're both a little bit more cleaned up than the last time we saw each other.
Yeah, absolutely. What Dr. Glover's referring to is we spent a week in Costa Rica together at a Rhythmia Life Advancement Center, and the last time he saw me, I was screaming like a madman. And
You were actually really calm the last time I saw you, but actually a little bit before then, yeah, I was actually worrying about your well-being.
Me too. Yeah, this whole tattoo was from that night.
Oh my
Boy,
goodness.
yeah. So I've had a little work done since then, and that week changed my life. And it was such a pleasure to meet you. And I had no idea really who you were when we took that van ride from the airport to Rhythmia, but I was shitting a brick and nervous as hell because I'd never done any ayahuasca or anything like that. But
Well, if I recall right, I remember we were chatting on the van and you were kind of giving me a little of your history and you were there with a bunch of friends and family, extended family, and kind of, you were like the only one that didn't have a partner. I'm just going on memory that it just seemed like you were really stretching yourself, putting yourself out there. And I told you Nala might start barking, so I'm going to let Nala out for a minute.
Oh,
so
no problem.
You're right back. Hang on.
Right.
As I told you, the handyman might come, and that's him out there. So Nala had to let me know. So we got two down. You and I were talking. We started recording that I was expecting three different people to come to the house while I'm recording. My wife's in the shower. She's about to leave. I said, got my son come down. So we're 2 out of 3 have arrived. So if I recall right, you were kind of on a new adventure, just kind of doing some brand new stuff for yourself.
Yeah. So kind of my background is, I was a nice guy for one. I was in a shitty relationship for a long time, but I made my way out of that relationship. But kind of my background is, I was raised son of a pastor and homeschooled, middle kid of 5, joined the military at 17 years old. And then, was deployed to Iraq, spent a year in Iraq. And when I came back, I was with a girl who, I shouldn't have been with, but
I've done a couple of those.
Yeah.
So, not your woman, but I've done a couple. I switched.
I wouldn't be surprised. No. So yeah, I mean, I came back from Iraq pretty fucked up, to be honest. And then my brother was killed in a car accident pretty shortly thereafter. And, I just, and then I made the mistake or followed my dreams and joined a law enforcement agency as a reserve deputy, and then had some really horrific experiences. And so I was dealing with a lot of PTSD and anxiety and depression and eating like shit, not working out, not doing what I'm supposed to do. And so finally, I don't know, something clicked. My brother-in-law is Earl Koski, and he's on the board of directors at Rhythmia, and I didn't know anything about ayahuasca. And so he was like, hey, man, you want to come down and do this thing? And
come do plant medicine. They call it plant medicine. You go, well, that can't be bad, right? It's from plants.
Yep. And so I took that leap of faith and decided, I need to change some shit in my life, and got to the airport in Liberia and waited outside, and here you came walking towards me. So it was you and your wife and a couple other people, and we took that trip to Rhythmia together, and I was scared shitless. I'd never done it before, but that week changed my life, and you got to experience a little bit of that being my bedmate next to me.
We were up close and personal, the final all-nighter of we were on the little mattresses right next to each other, and I think the mother was looking out for all of us, and it was good to get to debrief with you on the van back afterwards to kind of talk through some of that.
Yeah, it was incredible, life-changing, and I've actually been down there 2 more times since then. So,
I'm looking forward to hearing more about that.
Yeah, it's been great. I've been helping other people, getting people to go down there who need some help, and it's changing lives. It's incredible. But you also are changing lives, and you wrote the book No Mr. Nice Guy, and man, you're doing all kinds of helping men, and so many men need help, and so I'd love to kind of hear about your experience for people who've never heard of you. What's your jam? What do you get into, and how do you help people?
People have never heard of me. They're going, "Who's that guy with the funny white beard?" Right? Um, just a little bit of background. My background, I've got a PhD in marriage and family therapy. I was a marriage therapist for 25 plus years, private practice. Also, background, I grew up fundamental Christian, like you. I have 2 degrees in religion, and I was a minister for 8 years. Feels like a whole nother lifetime. So I do really relate to people who've grown up with especially fundamental religion. And I look back on it. I'm grateful for that experience, and I also consider it child abuse, what
Mhm.
I experienced. It created its own form of PTSD. Even like, the simple prayer, now I lay me down to sleep. Uh, um, if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And I'm thinking, that can't be good for little kids to talk about dying in their sleep and hoping that Jesus comes to get them, but not really sure if he's going to or not. And the alternative of that is, an eternity. And I've heard many sermons on how long is eternity of torture in hell. And I'm going, that's abuse to a child because they don't have the rationality to even question, is this logical or not? Is this for me or not? So I grew up with that. I mean, I went to a Christian college where I could have been kicked out of school for I got caught having sex or got caught drinking. They didn't catch me having sex. I didn't drink. So I did that, and then my first year of college, I took psychology 101 and I just fell in love with it. And so continued an education that led towards me getting the doctorate in marriage and family therapy, probably unconsciously wanting to fix my family, wanting to fix my parents. And so, as I said, did that for probably 25 years. And about 25 or so years ago, I finished writing No More Mr. Nice Guy, and took about 6, 7 years to write it, and about 3 years to find a publisher for it. A lot of publishers said, Robert, we like your book. It's well written, but our marketing department says men won't buy a self-help book. Well, that was kind of pre-Amazon, pre-people doing podcasts where, they talk about books and people go online and buy them, and Amazon says, people who bought this book too. So anyway, 25 years later, my royalty checks keep getting bigger every year. So apparently, men buy self-help books. I've written 4 of them now, and and there's more and more nice guys out there. So, but in terms of the whole nice guy thing, I am a recovering nice guy like you. And it was probably about 30 years ago. I was in my second marriage, and my then wife said, everybody thinks you're such a nice guy, but you're not. I can't trust you. You're passive aggressive. You hurt me. So I'd rather be with an asshole. At least I know an asshole is going to be an asshole to me all the time. You're nice to me, and then you switch. You're Jekyll and Hyde. Said, you need help. You need therapy. And said, if you don't get therapy, I'm leaving. Well, I wasn't actually very happy in my marriage. We'd only been married about a couple of years at that time. And uh, you hear about men talk about the bait and switch of getting married. That there's a woman that was highly sexual before we were married, and then on our honeymoon, she says, "Aren't you glad now that we're married, we don't have to pretend to like sex anymore?"
Whoa.
And I'm thinking, well, I wasn't pretending. Were you? And apparently she was. But there's probably deeper layers to it than that. But I stuck around for 14 years. But just like I'm grateful for that childhood experience with religion. I'm grateful for the big stick that my second wife was that said, "You go get help." I didn't know I needed help. I thought I was a nice guy. Now, as I started working on me, I got into a 12-step group. I got into therapy. I later joined a men's group I was in for several years. As a therapist, men were coming to me, often with their wives or girlfriends, saying, I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. I'm different than her ex. I'm raising her kids. They're going to private school. I buy her whatever she wants. She has a new car. She takes vacations. but it's never enough. She's never happy. When's it going to be my turn? She never wants to have sex anymore. And I thought, I can finish these guys' sentences for them. That was my story. So I started a No More Mr. Nice Guy men's group. We met every other Wednesday. I just started writing just little pages, chapters of just what I was discovering. I'm an inquisitive guy. I'm kind of a systems analyst, just as how my mind wants to understand why things work and don't work. And if they're not working, why and how they could work better. I mean, that's just kind of how I approach things. So I just kept writing for about 6, 7 years. Guys kept saying, Barbara, you should write a book. You should go on Oprah. This could be a bestseller. And so 5, 6, 7 years of writing, 3 years trying to get it published. And now, almost 25 years later, as I said, the book is going strong. And for better or for worse, I think there's even more nice guys out there now than there were when I wrote the book 25 years ago. I think we got, the millennials and Gen Z that are the nice guy syndrome seems to be multiplying the younger generations that keep coming along. So that's what that's me. I've been working with men almost exclusively for 20 plus years. I do workshops, I do seminars, I teach courses. I launched a men's membership program. That's just my passion. I just love working with men. I think men have the power to really make a difference in this world and to really shift the way things have been going. I know my first trip down to arrhythmia, and I was really fortunate. I'd actually never done any kind of psychedelics, mind-altering drugs. Heaviest thing I'd ever done was marijuana, and even that, I've never was a very heavy user of it. And so I got it. They invited me to come down probably about 5 years ago, and then COVID hit, so I got pushed back a couple of years. But my first time down there was 3 years ago, 4 years ago maybe, and I'd never done anything like it. I was scared, just like you were scared that time I met you, and I didn't know what to expect. And I remember the final night, the shaman. And I didn't know that he knew who I was. It was all guys, that particular event. It was just great to be all men. At the end of the night, I went up and the shaman was doing a blessing of everybody. I had no idea he even knew who I was. I got up there and he put his arm around me and he said, what you're doing is a good thing. He said, keep doing what you're doing. And he said, we men, we have to get to the men and work with the men and change the men so we can change the world. And then his arms around me, he said in my ear 3 times, you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. I still get teary-eyed thinking about that. And that was, it was such a powerful experience. That was the all night, my first year there. And it just had opened me so much. I came away from it with a renewed vision of a purpose and passion of how I want to be in the world. And that's partly why I launched this and partly why it's called Good Men Doing Better. One of my visions, journeys there was just about how we have to do better if we're going to save this world, save this planet. And so that was a moving, powerful experience for me to get to do that. And I was invited back the following year, 2 years ago, and the day before I was supposed to get on the airplane to fly down there, I had to have a catheter put in because I'd had COVID and it blew up my prostate. So I have a catheter put in on Thanksgiving Day, best Thanksgiving Day. Supposed to get on an airplane to Costa Rica, or at least to LA, then Costa Rica the next day. So I asked my doctor, so I can go to Costa Rica with this catheter in, right? And he goes, no, you're not getting on an airplane. So I didn't make it that year, but I still was able to do the classes via Zoom with JJ. I still got to interact with the men that were there. I just didn't get to do the medicine. And then the next year I went was co-ed, and I was still a guest speaker that year. So that's where I got to meet you. And just such powerful experiences to just open me. So yeah, to bring it back, that's my purpose. As many years as I've got left on this planet, I'm all about, helping men level up, be the best version of themselves, live their best lives, teach the younger generations what they need to know to live powerful masculine lives. And So any chance I get like this, I'm out spreading the word of because we men need all the help we can get. We've been left on our own for too long. So
Yeah.
I'm just thrilled that men like you are have a commitment to help men be their best selves. And you talking about what you've been through as a man. My son also went to Iraq. He was in Fallujah.
Oh, wow.
Um, so you guys, I understand what you went through. I still see the PTSD my son's dealt with, and we're all on the same team. We got to have each other's back.
Absolutely. Has your son ever tried the plant medicine? Or
My son, after he got back, he went and got a couple of degrees, and both of them are in wildlife ecology. So he finishes up his master's degree. He said, "Dad, I'm going to start a pot farm." About that time, it
perfect.
had been legalized in Washington State, so he did that for about 3 or 4 years. The market basically fell out. Once
Yep.
you legalize something, the profit margins go away,
Yeah.
and so now he's actually. He's in charge of the experimental orchard at Washington State University up
Oh,
in
wow.
Washington. So I don't know that he's done plant medicine, but I do know he really has done a lot of other work around MDMA,
Mhm.
around psilocybin. Actually, before I went to Rhythmia the first year, so like I said, this has been 3+ years ago. I was visiting with him, and I was about to head out, and he lived about 4 or 5 hours from my mother's house where I was headed back to up in Seattle area. And he hands me something. He knew I was going to be going to Rhythmia pretty soon. And he hands me something. He says, "Put that in your pocket." Later on, I said, "What'd you give me?" He goes, "Just a couple tabs of acid." And
Shit, you don't need that with
I,
arrhythmia.
I said, "Can you give me some operating instructions to go with it?" And he goes, he kind of gave me a few pointers. And so, but the truth is, those 2 tabs of acid are still in a lockbox right over here in my office. I'm not a super adventurous guy. If
Yeah.
somebody says, "Hey, we'll pay your way to Costa Rica if you'll come down and try plant medicine and be an influencer to help bring people down there," and I go, "Okay, sure." So,
Yeah.
it scares me, but hey, like they teach you there. I really love the mantra, and I've adapted it to just my own of anything in life. If it scares you, ground, kind of just get solid, breathe, open, and then the fourth point is to go in the direction of what scares you and or get
Mhm.
curious. And I love that. I think it's Jerry that says, if you're having a vision and there's two visions in front of you. One is your childhood abusers, and the others is puppies frolicking.
Yeah.
Said, go in the direction of what scares you. So they just
Yep.
say, breathe, open, go in that direction. And what a great mantra for life in general, not just when you're experimenting or having a ceremony or using plant medicine. Do what scares you. So I've kind of converted that to I treat fear as my North Star. If it scares me, I mean, if it's not life threatening and I have confidence that this is a positive direction, I'm going to say yes to it just because I'm in a place of life. Maybe this happens to most people as we get older. I'm not sure. Maybe most people don't. But as you get older, you start questioning things like free will, fate, choice.
Oh, no problem.
I got more people
Number
interrupting.
three. Good. Got your dog there.
Nala came back with me.
All
She
right.
loves being in here with me. It's my apologies.
It's all good.
This is life in Mexico that there's always
Tell me.
something going on. And, here you have somebody, because we have gates out in front. So,
Yeah.
people have to like make noise or ding or honk their horn to get your attention to get in. And I just knew these things were coming.
It's
I
all good.
tried to prepare, but best, no matter what.
The
Yeah.
nice thing
Now,
about the software I use is that it'll just find any audio gaps and just cut it right out.
appreciate your patience. Yeah, my first year, one of the ceremonies I did was all about dogs.
Was
And
it?
it was, like they say, don't go into detail of your ceremonies. Like trying to explain a
Oh
dream
yeah.
to somebody. And it was like, it was you, but it wasn't you. And I was here, but I wasn't really here. And there were like, aliens involved and like spiders. And it was, it's like, yeah, no, don't
Yeah.
try to make sense of them to anybody.
No, you'll
Uh,
get locked up.
yeah, and people
Craziness.
will go, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm trying to follow the mantra. If it scares me, do it. And so I try to say yes to those opportunities that open. I use that as a mantra. I encourage men to use that mantra. Use fear when men say, well, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what decision to make. And I go, which one scares you the most?
Hmm.
Well, this one definitely. Go that direction. It,
Yeah.
it usually won't disappoint you that that was an important direction. It'll be a powerful learning experience no matter what.
Yeah, it was kind of funny during that first week there after I think it was Tuesday night. I was I came back to my room and I was in the shower and I was still kind of in the medicine and man, I heard a knock on the door and it jarred me, and I went to the door and nobody was there and I was like,
Oh my goodness.
and then I realized like that was, I don't know. I just, it said, you don't try to explain these things, but that knock, I knew it was like, are you going to open the door to opportunity? That's how I took it. And it's like, are
I
you going to
love it.
do what you're supposed to do? And I was like, I hear the knock. I need to answer that call. It took me about 6 to 8 more months to actually follow through on it. I mean, this has always been my jam, helping guys. And I've always wanted to do some sort of podcast or helping guys but I've always been afraid to put myself out there,
Yeah.
it, it,
Welcome to
it-
the club, man. I think we all have some degree of fear. Well, who am I? Who
yeah,
am I to put myself out there? Let me read you something. I've got a
yeah,
biblical quote in front of me. I'm no longer religious, but again, you and I both grew up with this.
yep,
And this is a book, a quote from Jeremiah, Old Testament. And it says, the word of the Lord came to me saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations.
mhm,
Now, Jeremiah, like a lot of prophets, even like Moses, in the biblical account, when God comes and says, I've chosen you to lead my people, I've chosen you to speak to my people. And usually the response is, who am I? I'm not eloquent, or I'm not young. I'm young, or I think as Moses said, take my brother. He's better at this than
yeah,
me. And I think we all struggle with that. As I've gotten older, I really am tussling back and forth with fate.
mhm,
And I don't know that anybody's come up with the answer of how much free will do we really have. Einstein seemed to believe that we were ruled by the exact same laws as everybody in the cosmos, whether it be stars, moons, plants, animals, that there's certain laws that pretty much dictate a range of behavior. And I think we have the illusion we have personal freedom and personal choice. Now, I don't know. I don't know if fate is, oh, there's this one path, but what I do is that every time somebody recommends a book or somebody says, come to Costa Rica, or somebody says, try this. I haven't taken the tabs of acid yet. Um,
today's the day.
I maybe tomorrow. I, I'm trying to look at it kind of like going back to the quote from Jeremiah that I'm on a path, and that path is an important path. And uh, even when I'm wanting to like get off it, it'll keep taking me in the direction I'm supposed to be going. And that's been liberating in a lot of ways. In that, well, I don't have to fret over the decision making. I don't have to stress over am I going the right direction. I just assume that I am, and I'll be pointed whatever direction I need to go. But it's been liberating that I can also let go of what I'll just call my past fuck ups. Because what if every fuck up was an exquisitely planned part of the path and the journey to lead me to exactly where I am today? Because, if you talk to most people go, yeah, I like where I am right now. I'm right where I need to be. Especially if they're all kind of conscious and aware and they're going, yeah. And you have to look back and say, I'm grateful for everything that got me here. So I'm grateful for that fundamental religion. I'm grateful for the pain I've been through. I'm grateful for my failures. I'm grateful for my fuck ups. I'm grateful for the relationships that ended. They're all part of a beautiful plan that's brought me right where I am today, talking to you. The fact that you and I met on a van, that we were next to each other on two beds, during a very powerful night in your life and mine as well. And now we're talking, a year later. Life's just too fucking interesting to say, oh, all of that's just coincidence, chance. It's a lot more interesting and colorful to say, what a beautiful plan. What a beautiful story unfolding here.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I really do believe that. I mean, we're on this path, we're on this journey, and we don't know necessarily where we're going, but as I've looked back in my life, every fuck up has led me to a better place. Times when I'm terrified or broke or whatever, it
Yeah.
got me to a place where I needed to be. I mean, and I believe that you have to help yourself and choose some of these things, and not be afraid to take those steps that you need to take
Well, it's okay. It's okay to be afraid, but take the
yeah.
steps anyway. Yeah.
Yep.
In fact, it's perfectly fine. Be afraid. The more afraid you are, good. Go that direction.
Yeah. I feel like the universe is literally, or God is conspiring in my favor. Tomorrow is going to be a great example. So I went to Rhythmia. I'm on a podcasting app where I pair myself up with people who are looking to come onto shows. And this guy's coming on my show tomorrow. He's a mountain climber, former NFL guy. I was like, yeah, that'd be a cool conversation. Well, all of a sudden, my brother-in-law sends me this guy's video he just put together. It's the same guy. He just did a video on Rhythmia. He was down there with some jiu-jitsu guys and some actors. And I'm like, fuck, what is the odds of that? Like, I don't know this dude from anywhere. And so it's like, I'm being pushed in this direction.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. My rule of thumb is if I hear about a book 3 times like in a week, or if I hear somebody's name come up 2 or 3 times in a week, I go, all right, that's God knocking. That's the cosmos saying, pay attention. And the thing is, it even takes a lot of stress off us because we don't have to get this right. If we're on a path, and again, I know, I actually pulled out Perplexity last night because I'm reading a book where the subject of fate and free will and chance came up. Is an autobiography, is a book about the man who quit money. So a really good book. I think I heard Tim Ferriss recommend it. So if Tim Ferriss recommends it, that's part of my path, right? I got to pay attention. And so I said into Perplexity, what is free will? What is fate? And, of course, men have been debating, free will, fate, chance forever. But, it said something in this book I was reading that I've been thinking the same thing, that, you and I grew up, with a biblical background, and you hear faith a lot, about faith. And I don't know what you were taught exactly as a pastor's son, but at least a version of faith I always heard is basically believing the biblical description of things. All right. You believe, as people in my church used to say, Jesus said it, I believe it, that settles it. Right?
I've heard it. Yeah.
You've heard that. That cocksureness, I know what the Bible says. It's literal, and I'm gonna take it literal. And so faith was always like believing the Bible, right? That is the inspired word of God, or believing Jesus was, God incarnate. I've come to think that that's really not what faith is. That's just believing a dogma or not. That's not really faith. I think faith is stepping into a place that says, I don't know what's next, but I trust that it's the right direction. I think faith is going with that burning purpose and passion you have inside of you, like starting a podcast. You don't know if it's the right thing. You don't know if anybody's going to ever listen to it. Faith for me was writing a book, just writing over a period of 6 to 7 years. It was time consuming. I stopped a couple of times and I had a hard time getting it finished. I got back into therapy just to finish it. But I didn't know if anybody would read it or not. My biggest fear was nobody would care. Yeah. And here it is now, making 6-figure royalty checks every year. So people care. So I think faith is not that you believe a specific doctrine, a specific preacher, a specific book. I think faith is willing to take the chance to do the shit that scares you because you don't know what's on the other end of things. I think that is the leap of faith that we're challenged to make. And so when I see people like you, and, I probably do 4 or 5, interviews a week. I did 2 yesterday. I'm doing 1 today on Saturday with you. And so I talked to a lot of people that when they started their podcasts, some of them already had some notoriety in certain areas, but some people, they weren't anybody, right? Yeah. Nobody ever heard of them. And now you started this. You told me 3 months later, you're already over 12,000 subscribers. That it took faith on your part, and you keep saying rearranging, the things behind you.
Yeah.
You're fine tuning it. But you had to start something. You had to push record.
Yep.
You had to sit down in front of that camera and go, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going to do it. I think that is faith, not that you believe a specific doctrine, a specific book, or a specific preacher. And so that's where I'm thinking. If we have some sense that the path we're on is logical, like you say, the cosmos is conspiring with us to create something amazing, to do something amazing, that's a lot easier to make those decisions and dive into the stuff that scares you than if you're thinking, oh, this is all on me. If this is the wrong decision, I'll pay for it for, the rest of my life. No, the wrong decisions are just learning experiences. And maybe they're an essential part of that fateful path that we're on. Now, having said all that, I don't know if any of that's true or not.
Yeah.
But like this quote that I read to you, all right, did the cosmos know me in the womb before I was conceived, before the birth of the cosmos? Was this trajectory of my life already? I don't know. I have no idea. I thought about getting this tattooed somewhere on my body. And I
You
thought,
should do it.
but what if I'm wrong? I'm going, where's your faith, brother? Where's your faith?
What if
Get
you're
it
not?
tattooed on your body. It
Yeah.
doesn't even matter if I'm right or if I'm wrong, because if it inspires me. Because I give you an example. When after I did do my first ceremonies down at Rhythmia, just 2 or 3 months later, a guy came to one of my workshops, and he's the one who said, Robert, you need to start a men's membership program. And I think if I hadn't had the experience at Rhythmia of one of the ceremonies, seeing I was called to make a difference in this world, to lead the world forward in a healthier way. Now, the vision was fairly grandiose, so I won't go into detail. But I accepted the call. I accepted the call. And then so I started working on building a men's membership program. And, come to find out, it's a lot of work. I've been at it for going on about 3 years now. We launched a year and a half ago. And it's been challenging. And I just turned 69 a month ago. And, most men my age are retired. They're playing golf, watching Fox News, whatever they do to when you don't have a job to go to anymore. And so about around this time 3 years ago, I toyed with the idea of semi-retirement. I took about a 3-month sabbatical during the summer, went camping, read a lot, and got through that. Now I have a few more things I want to do. I wanted to create some video classes, so I got that done. It took about 2 years, and I thought I'm gonna launch this men's program. So about the time we're about to launch, or maybe just a month or two into it, I thought, I can't be toying with the idea of semi-retirement in the near future. And I thought, I'm in it for the next 20 years. I thought that'll take me to about, at that time, about 87. Okay. I'm looking at 88. So about now 19 more years. And I don't know. 3 or 4 of my grandparents lived into their 90s. My mom's about to have her 90th birthday this May. But if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it all in. I'm going to keep saying yes to those doors that open. I just recently got invited to go to Japan in March. All expenses paid to go be a speaker. I've been invited to go to Australia later this year. Same thing. Come speak to our programs. And I'm thinking, okay, my theme for this year, my mantra, I'm in a men's group. We all have a theme for this year. Mine is yes and. It's yeah. And, whatever else comes, let's say yes. So everything that comes, somebody recommends a book, yes. Somebody, I get sick or I struggle or I have a problem. How can I say yes to it? I get 3 interruptions during an interview. How can I say yes to it? Because usually we want to shut down. Why is that happening? It shouldn't be happening. Or we want to orchestrate it. What if we just said yes?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my mantra. That's my theme for this year. I'm just going to say yes.
88 is my lucky number, so I'm happy you said that. I don't know why it is.
You would make a really good Asian, because 8 is a lucky number. When they love to gamble, so when they go to casinos gambling, it's all 8.
Yeah, buddy.
A couple of years ago, I was walking down I don't know if it's Fifth, Sixth Avenue in New York. Walked in front of a new building, new construction, and the number of it was 888. And I thought,
Uh,
oh, the Chinese are going to buy up the rooms in that place. That's their lucky number.
that's awesome. So your integration nation, can we talk about that a little bit? Like
No,
how
we're not going to talk about it. I don't
no.
want anybody to know about it. I don't. I
I'll
have
blur
no.
the
I,
I'll
I have
blur the
no
shirt out.
product placement. Let me go get a hat real quick.
Yeah.
All right. What do you want to talk about with Integration Nation?
So how are you helping guys? What's kind of the concept of it? Yeah.
The concept is just basically we men need tribe. We need community. Our ancestors throughout all of history, the men lived, in tribe. And so say they tell us 1.5 million years, we were tribal. We were hunters and gatherers. And within tribe, there was always a tribe within a tribe. There was the women, the older people, the children that kind of huddled, stayed close. And then the men and the stronger, able-bodied people went out, hunted, gathered, fought. And they'd go out and do their work, and then they'd come back. And then they bring the food, the furs, and the fucks back to the women, and then go out and do it again. And even when we quit being so tribal and hunting, gathering, and we became more stationary, we found a nice piece of land, and let's just stay on this. We can plant a tree, or there's good berries here, or we can domesticate a goat. And we went more to an agrarian society and more of what I call an ownership society, is kind of the patriarchal, what we usually lump together in patriarchy, where instead of everything being communal and shared, men owned stuff. They owned a piece of land, they owned the tree, they owned their grain, they owned the animal, they owned their wives, they owned their kids. And even during that about 10,000 year period that brings us up to modern times, men still deeply connected with men, whether it was going to war, or whether it was farming together, whether it was, if when a boy grew up, as soon as he could get out of the house and help, he was with his dad, his brothers, his grandfather, his uncles, his cousins. Men always were with men, solving problems, dealing with difficult things, ensuring the survival of family and species. Men have always done that work together. And a part of that process has always involved some sort of initiation, something where the older, masterful men take the boys out, whether it's putting them in a fearful situation where they fear for their life, their health, their well-being, they get comfortable being uncomfortable, or whether it was an internship, or where they go and learn how to make horseshoes from another man. Men have always learned from men, and that always brought them into the masculine world of mastery, where they could provide and protect for not only themselves, but family and extended family and community. That's always been the path of men. Now, gender roles have changed dramatically over the last 60, 70, 100 years, and maybe will continue to continue to evolve, and because they can be fairly fluid. But what's happened really since World War II is that boys have been more estranged from their fathers, more estranged from masterful men. We don't grow up around our fathers. We grow up around our mothers raise us. We're put in daycare. We go to preschool. We're in schools with female teachers. And this isn't to put any kind of blame on women. I think boys were always fairly raised independent on women from their first few years of life. But throughout all of human history, once a boy reached a certain age where he was capable, the men took him out of the nursery, away from the women, and put him into the world of men, and taught them skills to be masterful, to contribute, to have self-esteem. For men, masterful action is internally validating. For the feminine in us and others, being desired or praised or approved of is externally validating. That's why women say, do I look fat in these jeans? Or, taking selfies and posting them, because they want, the feminine wants that external validation. The masculine, when it's been properly initiated and trained, is internally validated through masterful action. Okay. But what's happening is now young men don't ever have any of that initiation to initiate them into the world of masculine mastery, proficiency. And so what happens is a lot of men just hang out, I call it in the nursery, where everything is pushed to them. You see, especially with millennials and especially with Gen Z, they grew up with cell phones in their hands, with smartphones. The Netflix is pushed to them, porn is pushed to them, social media is pushed to them. They can even, Uber Eats will push your food to you. You don't have to do anything really to survive. And so now we have a whole generations of men who don't have the community, the connection with men, the mentorship, the coaching, the support, the accountability, right? The iron sharpening iron thing of other men. And so many men now just hang out in the nursery where everything's easy, playing World of Warcraft, smoking their dope, drinking, jerking off to porn, or ordering food on, Uber Eats. And yeah, life's easy. But we're dealing with a crisis of isolation of men, of loneliness in men, drug addiction in men, school dropouts in men, suicide in men, early death in men, just general stupidity in men, just because we've not been initiated and we're still Peter Pan. We don't want to grow up. We just want life to stay easy. And it's not any one man's fault because it used to be the older men, the elders, the warriors, the hunters, the fighters took the boys and initiated them. I mean, watch 300. Just, great, great, when the boys up there in the cave, with the wild animal out there with a spear. And that not happening. So it's not a boy's fault. It's not a young man's fault. It's not a Gen Z, a millennial, or even a baby boomer's fault if the men have not initiated them. So I've been all about building community for men for 25 years or so. When I left private practice in Seattle, I was leading 5 men's groups a week. I've always tried to build community. I used to have an online support group. Now with Integration Nation, right now we're probably around 500 men. Our goal is any man in the world that wants a men's community. Maybe there's nothing in his hometown, nothing nearby. Come be part of Integration Nation. We have over 55 virtual calls a month that guys can get on as part of the community. I lead a call every Thursday where I either teach a lesson, do an interview, do a Q&A. All of that's recorded. Some of it we put video on our YouTube channel. We record it for members. We have a timeline, a forum. What social media was before social media sucked, where, you just got on there with a few friends and family and their friends. So we've got that. And, it's been a challenge building it. It's taken a lot of work. It's been expensive. I've been taking a paycheck from it yet. I've been working on it 3 years. But every time I hear a man say, Robert, thank you for this. I have connection with men. We have men going through divorce, men going through breakups, men going through difficult relationships, men that have never had a girlfriend, men that are wanting to level up at work and career, and they're just connecting deeply with each other. And when men get that safe place to connect with other men, when they're vulnerable, when they reveal themselves, when they share their struggles and other men do the same, and they start giving a shit about other men and they let other men give a shit about them, everything in life gets better. Everything just seems to start falling into place. So that's what we're trying to do is to build this community and there's lots of men's membership programs out there. I just had a conversation yesterday with a good friend of mine, Connor Beaton, who's got his own men's membership program. And he's given me tips of, how he's building his to help me build mine. Just this week, I interviewed Adam Lane Smith, who's just, get him on your show. He's just an expert on attachment and attachment issues. It just, we men need community. And to me, it doesn't matter. Is it through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Is it your divorce group at your church? Is it going to a pickup boot camp? Is it your 12-step program, your STAG group, for alcohol or addiction or codependency or sexual addiction? I don't care. We need community. And the beautiful thing I'm seeing with the internet, when I went looking for some kind of men's program 30 plus years ago, about all I found, it wasn't pre-internet, but internet was young. Mm-hmm. About all I found was, the mythopoetic movement, Robert Bly stuff, went out in the woods, beat a drum, hold a stick, say ho. I did that, but there wasn't much more to it. Nowadays, what's beautiful, maybe a guy goes to his 12-step program to get sober and somebody hands him No More Mr. Nice Guy or David Data's Way of the Superior Man, or says, hey, check out this website. Or maybe they go to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and they make a buddy. And the buddy says, man, are you familiar with this? And there's this process out there. Somebody watches a YouTube video and go, wow, I didn't know that was out there. And they get turned on to this men's program or that men's program or this book. And I'm an optimist. I believe we're in an amazing good place. I mean, the internet is filled with trash. And it is also such a powerful tool if you can wade through the trash to find quality things like podcasts like this. So many men are just doing good work and kind of like that shaman told me when I was down in Costa Rica, you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. We're a band of brothers. We're in this together. We're supporting each other to build this worldwide community of men because when we men have community, our relationships are better. We're more honest, we're more transparent, we're more purposeful, we're more passionate, we level up in work and career, we have faith, we follow our dreams when we have a community of men. When we're trying to do it all alone, it's a struggle. It's going to be a struggle anyway, but let's diminish the struggle with a band of brothers at our side.
Man, Robert, you're crushing it. You've been helping men for so long, and I really do appreciate it. That's kind of, I think, why the podcast thing has grown. Like I watch a lot of Joe Rogan stuff, and you kind of feel like you're in a community, even though you're not really involved with it. I mean, I know there's so many guys out there who are just lacking that connection with other men. You know, I was kind of one of them. I'm starting to build my group of guys, you know, because but yeah, there's just so many guys that are missing out on that connection with other guys, and it causes depression and anxiety. You know, watching porn or drinking yourself to death, all of that stuff. And so you're saving lives and you're helping lives. And man, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they go about that?
Well, two places. One, my website, drglover.com. That's where my courses, my online courses, my workshops, my podcasts. You can find my books there. So just drglover.com. And people want to know more about Integration Nation, just integrationnation.net. And we open up enrollment every 28 days for 72 hours. And I'm just excited. Like I said, it's been a lot of work, you know, like I said, most guys are retired at my age. I'm going to build a new company. I'm going to do something really difficult, really challenging. And I think it's exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And so, yeah, check out integrationnation.net.
I appreciate it. You were there literally the week that changed my life, and I'm so glad that I got to meet you there. And I feel connected to you. This is the first time I've talked to you since that week. But
well, I went looking for you that night. I was making sure you were still around and alive and well, and you were. You were.
I was.
So,
I'm sorry I yelled at you.
You did actually yell at me.
No.
You just yelled for someone to come help you.
Yeah.
I hope he's okay. I didn't know it had anything to do with it. Oh, yeah, you did say some things to me a little bit later when I went looking for you, but I didn't know it was you till later. Then,
Yeah.
about sunrise, I'd been out kind of walking around. I came back to my bed, and there you were on the bed next to me. I go, oh, good. He's back.
He made
He's
it.
back. He made it.
It was the most transformational night of my life. I mean, it was incredible, and you got to experience it.
I was right there.
My heart is with you. Man, love you. I appreciate you.
I love you too, and I'm glad you're doing this work. Thank you for inviting me to come on your show. When you get to your 100th episode, invite me back, okay?
I will 100%. I appreciate you, and we'll put this out, and we'll get you up to 12,000 in no time.
Let's do it together.
Right on. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Tim.